and they were adventurers like myself, so it wasn't right to settle down with them.
While holding out for the right guy, she also kept an eye on her biological clock. Determined to prolong her childbearing years, she worked hard to keep herself youthful with alternative therapies like acupuncture.
I have to say, this makes me a little sick, Aleta. How old were you?
49.
Wow.
While other 49-year-olds may have been concerned with menopause, Aleta had faith she would be able to conceive. After all, her grandmother was 54 when she gave birth to her 13th child, Aleta's mom. So when her desire for a baby started to intensify, she didn't second guess it.
When I started to get older, and I thought, well, you know, now I'm kind of ready to settle down. And I really want to give to children now because I feel like I've done everything that I wanted to do in my entire life. And so I was ready. I was really ready.
Ready, yet even she could not predict the sacrifice, soul-searching, and sheer grit that getting pregnant in her 50s would require. And getting pregnant at that age isn't just difficult, it could also be dangerous.
You wanted to create the best situation in utero for your kids.
Totally.
At the same time, your age put them at certain risks.
Aleta St. James's approach to family planning when Dateline continues. Just before her 50th birthday, Aleta sensed in her way that the time had come to bring children into the world. It was an outlandish idea to many, including her brother.
Let's go, if we can, to Jerry. Good morning, Jer.
Hey, fellas,
now a talk radio host, Curtis Sliwa is no stranger to controversy. 26 years ago, critics scoffed at his bold dream of fighting crime with unarmed volunteers. Today, the Guardian Angels, which Curtis started small in New York, is a world organization. Still, even the guy who bucked convention was skeptical about his sister's vision.
In the neighborhood we grew up in, we say people like that have all the furniture upstairs and rearranged in the wrong rooms. You know, next she'll be chasing leprechauns thinking it'll lead her to a pot of gold. So I really didn't think there was a possibility.
Did his reaction make you even more determined? You must have had an awful lot of naysayers saying, sister,
but you know what?
You're crazy. You're really, it's
right.
ridiculous. What are you doing?
But you see, I surrounded myself with people that were very supportive.
Her circle of support would balloon during the extreme highs and lows of the next 7 years. Although at the start, Aleta had no inkling that having children in her 50s would turn into such an elaborate production. Even so, she approached having a baby in November of 1997 as if training for the Olympics. From incredibly disciplined thinking to intense conditioning with her friend Yamina, a body therapist.
You can slam it down, you can take your vitamins with it.
Instead of a simple one-a-day prenatal vitamin, Aleta's regimen, under the guidance of Sally Kravich, a holistic nutritionist, involved frequently changing doses and combinations of herbal supplements, protein powders, fatty acids, essential oils, and vitamins A to Z, much like the routine she continues to this day.
Your body loves this one.
Wow, okay.
To be sure she didn't miss a thing, Aleta, then 50, also had her blood routinely checked by a former heart surgeon, Dr. Frederick Vanini, who now specializes in anti-aging, wellness, and clinical nutrition.
She had to do a lot of detoxification and vitamin therapy to get her body in shape.
Still single, Aleta held on to the hope that she would conceive the old-fashioned way. At a nearby Catholic church, she reached out to God, just as her mother and father had when they were ready to start a family.
Before they actually created me, she had him say a rosary.
Heaven sent or not, she soon met someone special who also wanted a baby. With no time to waste, they started trying. Surprisingly, Aleta proved she could get pregnant in her 50s. Trouble was, she couldn't stay pregnant. She miscarried time and again.
The miscarriages must have been devastating.
Totally devastating, totally.
At 53, she continued to firmly believe that she was destined to get pregnant. Still, the miscarriages weren't the only major setbacks. By December of 2000, the man with whom she had hoped to raise a family was fading out of her life. Now Aleta, who never imagined herself as a single parent, had to face her biggest fear.
If you could say, what is the one thing that you do? I would say financially be responsible and, emotionally and physically be totally responsible for bringing up children.
Even so, not only did she decide to push forward alone, she conceded she needed a boost from science. She sought advice from a well-respected obstetrician who specializes in high-risk pregnancies.
She walked into the office and she did say she was on a quest. And she said she wanted to get pregnant. Well, that's no problem, except when I heard her age. That was obviously off-putting because we don't encourage women in their 50s to become pregnant.
Despite his reservations, Dr. Jonathan Schur put Aleta, 53 in March of 2001, through a battery of tests. The results surprised him.
Aleta is in better shape and healthier than many, many women much younger than herself.
She may have been healthy to carry a baby, but there were serious medical and ethical issues to consider.
She was at greater risk of developing high blood pressure, gestational or pregnancy diabetes, and there was an increase of birth complications, neonatal death, unfortunately. But she was made aware of these facts.
But from her perspective, the benefits of nurturing a baby in her body eclipsed all other options.
Adopt. Well, I believe everybody has a mission, and my mission was to bring children in that wanted to be in a body that was nutritionally balanced, meditated, emotionally stable, because I believe it has a lot to do with how the child develops.
You wanted to create the best situation in utero for your kids.
Totally.
At the same time, your age put them at certain risks.
But not really, Katie, because when they say high-risk pregnancies start at 35.
At Dr. Schur's suggestion, in September of 2001, Aleta asked a reproductive endocrinologist to consider her case.
If things would not have been medically safe, I would have said, I'm sorry, I cannot help you.
Dr. Jane Miller did, however, give Aleta, now almost 54, a reality check. Despite her excellent health and regular periods, the number and quality of her eggs were precipitously declining, inevitably due in women over the age of 35.
The biggest obstacle she had to surmount was understanding that she could not get pregnant with her own eggs, or rather, that it would be unlikely to get pregnant with her own eggs.
Quite a bombshell after all her disciplined efforts to preserve her youth. After 4 years of trying to get pregnant naturally, she had to make peace with the idea of conceiving with cutting-edge technology.
I knew if I make that decision, let go of how I thought things were going to be, I would never be able to have my dream.
For spiritual strength, in August of 2002, she traveled to fertility temples in India with a Hindu guru. He performed ancient rituals like this fire ceremony conducted for us in a New York temple. Infused with new energy, Aleta agreed to try in vitro fertilization with donor eggs. As for the male half equation, an old friend volunteered, provided there were no strings attached.
And I knew emotionally I was ready to do it, because it's hard going through in vitro. It's not an easy process. You really have to want to have a child.
In September of 2002, a few months before her 55th birthday, Aleta had 2 embryos transferred. With donor eggs, she had a 50 to 60% chance of getting pregnant. The first round failed, but to the amazement of the aging doctor, Aleta refused to give up.
She went through the process unsuccessfully, and it just took a tremendous toll on her body. She gained weight, it developed the joint problems, she had fatigue, and she kept going.
Not only did she keep going, she underwent major surgery to remove fibroids that were distorting her uterus, an operation that she had hoped to avoid. Fertility specialist Dr. Miller marveled at how Aleta, now 56, bounced back.
Usually, first post-operative day, the patient's sitting there, or actually lying there, looking awful. I can't move, I can't lift, I can't, go to the bathroom, I come into the room, and she's sitting up in bed, putting on lipstick. And she said, "Hi, when can I go home?" So I said, "Let's keep you till tomorrow. And then tomorrow morning, second post-operative day, you can go home." "Okay, when you put those in?"
3 months later, in March of 2004, Aleta gave in vitro another shot. Pumped up on hormones and more positive than ever, she had a strong feeling this time was the charm. But she was also braced to be disappointed again. 2 weeks later, on April Fool's Day no less,